build our strength. We need stress. We need stress to inoculate ourselves against bigger stresses. And what can we do for ourselves and for our students to frame it in a way that they can see it? So can everyone just take a deep breath with me right here? And let it out. And part of that is being in the moment. I see some of you on phones because everything's an emergency, but that's one of the things that take us away from this moment. So initially, psychology was all about what's wrong with you. So this is where I have about traditional psychology. And in the late 1990s, 1998 to be exact, Martin Seligman, a famous psychologist out of Penn State, who had studied learned helplessness for all these years, gave his presidential address at APA and realized, after looking at the research, that the ratio was 99-1 for researching negative emotion, maladjustment, abnormal psychology to 1 for the positive side of it. And what he was beginning to realize is that positive psychology does not ignore what's wrong. It strengthens us so we can use what's great within us to face our challenges. The beauty of positive psychology, and I'll talk about it throughout this presentation, is that it really helps with the stigma associated with psychological disorders. Because when we open the door to all the wonderful things that are existing within us, then we open the door to talk about psychology. We literally take it out of the closet, and you're not afraid to talk about it. You're not afraid to be open about it. And that's something that's very important in my classroom. So my early research was on teacher enthusiasm. Up till then, the assumption was if you were excited about what you were teaching, it was just entertainment. But what I was able to show in my research was that you can frame the material with gestures, with voice, with eye contact, with smiling, in a way that it signals our students to what's important, engages them, maintains almost like one-on-one conversation, and retains memory that much better. And because of that, as I talk about my philosophy and have a chance to hear about your philosophy today, positive emotions aren't just for feeling good. There's nothing wrong with feeling good, but they have a significant impact on our intellect and our ability to recover and flourish during challenge. So when I practiced, and I started practicing, I got my Ph.D. in 1998 from Western, and I finished my exams for the College of Psychology in 1999. My specialties in counseling psychology and school psychology, and within counseling psychology and health psychology, that's this area of flourishing, positive psychology, all of that. And I put this up here because what I wanted to share, just like your own method and mission in the classroom, as a leader, as a principal, as a superintendent, as a guidance counselor, as a parent, one size does not fit all. So depending on the client or the student that I'm working with, it's really important that we flow and we change. And so these are just some of the ways that I really like to focus my work. And another thing I've had the opportunity to do, as you heard my introduction, is I've written 2 psychology books, and a third one's coming out, and I'll be giving these out today, and they'll be based on who answers my questions first. Prizes always work. So what is positive psychology? Well, one of the theorists, Dr. Wong, who's Canadian, talks about 4 main areas of positive psychology, really the pillars. And the second one I'm going to focus on today is resilience. The interesting thing about resilience is every single one of us in this room has experienced trauma, or could be experiencing trauma, extreme stress, any difficulty imaginable. But the research shows that if there are 200 people in this room, about 50 of us will have resilience, or what's called protective factors, that allow us to lift us through whatever the challenge is. And what's important to know is that they're trainable. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So really the first third of my presentation is just giving you a general overview, and then I'm going to get more specific into resilience and how we can teach it. So resilience isn't anything fancy. It's really ordinary magic. It's good relationships, good food. Did you have a good lunch? Good sleep. Did you have a good night's sleep? Yes, no, maybe. It's quiet. It's fitness. It's really adaptability. So when things don't go your way, how adaptable are you? We tend to be a lot more adaptable when we're young and less so as we get older. You don't have to be that way. We have to look at how change and how we embrace change allows us the opportunity to be adaptable and flexible. Like I said before, if I hadn't been laid off the job as a psychologist, I never would have experienced the fact of how much I love teaching. And as you'll see as we go through this presentation, that is my first passion. Equal up there with my husband, but he's teaching and my marriage. Those two are number 1 and 2, or 2 and 1, depending. Flexibility, how flexible you are, how well you recover from trauma. So all of us, when we first experience trauma, will have not a positive response. It'll be negative, but how quickly do you respond? And so the great analogy for resilience is the palm tree. We think about the palm tree, Aruba, the Caribbean, even Florida. But what's interesting to know about the palm tree, and some of you may already know this metaphor and know enough about trees, back to nature, is that palm trees actually benefit from hurricanes. That when palm trees experience hurricanes, and think of a hurricane in your life that you've overcome or maybe going through, that they bend all the way over and then come back. And their roots are strengthened by the wind. So unlike an oak tree that will snap because it's not flexible, a palm tree is a great metaphor for resilience. Another interesting way to look at traditional psychology versus positive psychology, and the work that you do in success and achievement and the well-being of students, is we tend to focus all of our efforts and energy at the bottom of this graphic. So mental health, nominal mental health, so not the best case scenarios, symptoms, disorder-oriented, whereas positive psychology looks more at the top, which is improving your lifestyle, the way that you cope, are you problem-focused versus solution-focused. The beauty of positive psychology in combination with traditional psychology is it takes care of 100% of the population, not just 20% of the population that's struggling with mental illness. It's all of us. And those struggling with mental illness. It benefits everybody. So there's no question here, this is why you're here, because we see our students stressed, they're depressed, we pick it up, we see it, and there's no questions that Canadians are experiencing stress in epic levels. That's a given. From the original picture that's looking at the drought. And why we need to know about resilience is that there's certain characteristics about individuals that make them more vulnerable. The diathesis stress model, the diathesis is a vulnerability. So, for example, this isn't the exact statistics, but 40% of the population, say 40% of the population is born with the gene for mental illness, or born with the gene for depression. But only 10 to 15% of that population actually manifests that disorder. What makes the difference? What makes the difference is the reason why you're here. It's stress. That a stressful life event is enough to push somebody over. You could have twins with equal predispositions towards mental illness, and if one of them experiences extreme stress, then they're more likely to manifest the mental illness. But what's most interesting, and this is why I call it the positive side, not just me, but positive psychology, is it's not the stress that breaks us, it's the perception of the stress. That makes all the difference. So if you see stress as bad, it'll kill you, literally. Aren't you glad we got to the happy part of this presentation? If you see stress as good, you'll use it to motivate it through. So we're going to look at models of flow and where that all comes in. Stress is bad, death. Stress is good, not death. I'm glad we can laugh. We have to laugh. So back to what the risk factors are for mental illness, and as I'm showing you, if you look at any kind of model with mental illness with vulnerability and protective factors, we can do something about the protective factors. Education is one of the greatest things that you could ever do for yourself. You included. Being here today. By the time you leave, your brain will not be the same. It will have that many more neural connectors that will act as a protective factor for stress and other brain disorders like Parkinson's, some types of schizophrenia, Alzheimer's. So stress, we can't do anything about gender. We can do something about physical health. The final doom and gloom of today's talk is that when we have multiples of the risk factors. So assessment is everything as a psychologist. Assessment is everything as a teacher. We have to see where they are before we know where we can take them to. So if somebody has 2 risk factors, they have 4 times the chance of mental illness. And if they have 4 risk factors, they have tenfold. You know that, but this just breaks it down by the research. So let's get to the solutions. Because there are solutions. There definitely are solutions. So when I talk about looking at stress as either good or bad, what I'm talking about with you, with your 4-year-old, with your 7-year-old, with the 17-year-old student in your class, is choice. We all have a choice in how we're going to view it. And one of the things I do often as a professor is I reframe for my students. So when I hear the negative talk, the helplessness, is that I will remind them. I teach mostly collaborative nursing at St. Clair, and I taught with Vicki Houston, one of your superintendents in the tech studies